Boom, boom. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Plant Stock channel. Now you have me and Mayur here today talking about Oatly. And sorry for the delay. My understanding is that Mayur didn't basically sleep tonight because your baby boy has been up all night, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm sure a lot of parents can relate to that, but yeah, he was up all night, so that kept us up here.
All right. But before we get going, guys, just a quick reminder, a disclosure and disclaimer here, guys, that whatever we talk about, this is not financial advice. It doesn't. We're not trying to get you guys to buy any stocks here. It's just two guys talking about things that we're interested in, basically. So it's important to just keep that in mind. All right, guys. So today we're gonna talk about Oatly, and it's actually looking pretty good today, guys. It's up right now about 4%, and I would say, it's actually 4.5% right now, and also Beyond Meat is up about 5%, and I think it's actually probably related to what's going on with the Russian-Ukrainian border situation. Have you heard anything about that, Mayor?
Yeah, I think the market's rallying on that news, but I think we're still in a secular correction just because it's the a combination of nonstop rally for the last 2 years. Plus the Fed is now starting to move on tapering the balance sheet and
No.
raising rates.
Yeah.
So this could be. I caution folks not to read too much into today's move. I think it just could be a bounce because market's been down the last couple of weeks, but I think the trend is still down.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So basically, guys, we're going to talk about Oatly today and some risks maybe that me and Mayor has been talking about. So, because me personally, I'm bullish on Oatly, as you guys know, and I think Mayor is that as well. But it's important to still look at the other aspects of any company that you really enjoy. Same with Beyond Meat that we talked a lot about, to kind of keep it real and know what we're actually getting us into. So that's why we thought about talking just a short while today about some of the risks. And you sent me a whole list here of the first three things that you really enjoy, like about the company and the prospects you see. Should I read them up and maybe if you want to talk about them or you have them in front of you, or should I just read them?
Yeah, I just brought it up in front of me here. So just a few points I just wanted to get off my chest.
Yeah,
Regarding Oatly specifically.
yeah,
So first and foremost, I love the mission.
mm,
I love what they are doing to improve the planet. There is a problem out there, which dairy presents. It's a big problem. It not only is bad for the environment, it's also bad for cows, which are living sentient beings, right? And they're as intelligent as dogs are in most research. So the suffering that cows are put through is just not okay. So Oatly is directly addressing that problem, which is commendable in and of itself. Um, and then specifically for Oatly, I love the taste of Oatly. It's a great product versus others. I've tried others before. They're all good, but I think Oatly is the best in terms of taste and its texture and its, you know, um, the various different ways you can, use Oatly, right? I've tried other oat milks, but for example, I'm Indian, and we drink chai. Chai is like religion in India. Everybody drinks it.
yeah.
um, and I made Oatly chai for the first time, and it was incredible. And I gave it to my family as well, and they're like, "Yeah, we can barely taste the difference from this versus dairy milk." So all of basically 99% of India drinks chai using dairy milk. So
Yeah.
if Oatly starts to enter India, I think that's a significant opportunity for them.
Yeah,
So
my understanding too is when it comes to India, that a lot of people when they go to work, they bring with themselves like a big jar or big container of chai with a
Yeah.
lot of the spices, and they basically have that as lunch sometimes, depending on their situation. And it's quite
Yeah.
filling. So
Yeah, it's there's an entire lifestyle built around chai.
mm,
Many people in India, in fact, there's in India, like for the working class, they take a chai break, right? Every single day after lunch, there is a time for a chai break. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon.
right,
So everyone just takes a 15-minute break, and everyone has chai peacefully.
yeah,
Only once you have your chai, then everyone goes back to work.
exactly.
Otherwise, you can't go back to work. So employers already know this from the beginning, so they give everyone a 15-minute break for chai
All right,
in India. So
nice.
anyway, Oatly is excellent for chai,
Yeah,
and I love the branding specifically of Oatly, the viral marketing, the CEO. Everything is in place. So all of that is great. The mission is awesome, the product is awesome, and the marketing is awesome, and the leadership is awesome. So one would think that that is everything that you need for a highly successful investment, right? And I think the investment itself will be good. However, I just have a few things that's still nagging me that I wanted to just get off my chest, put it out there for everyone to just consider as things that I view as risks of the company. And one is I'm still doubtful about the strategy to stick to the premium end of the market.
yeah,
That's my biggest concern. Every other company that I have been investing in, like Tesla and even Beyond Meat, their stated mission is to achieve price parity with the incumbent, right? And that is the way that they have said that they will make a change in the world. Because Tesla started off with selling $100,000 cars, and that's really nice, but you can't change the world with a super luxury product. Beyond Meat is started off as a very expensive product, and it still is expensive in many parts of the world. But Ethan Brown is on record saying that that's one of the reasons why they sales isn't double what they're at right now,
right,
and it's a part of their trifecta, right? Their three pronged approach to winning in the long term, which is getting the price of Beyond Beef down to the same price as regular beef. That is one of the main areas that they're going to be able to do this from. So it's taste, nutrition, and cost. That is the three steps to getting Beyond Meat from a niche product into becoming a mainstream product.
right.
So there's definitely companies out there that simply stick to the luxury end of the market, like Ferrari.
Yeah,
If you look at Ferrari shares, they're actually doing quite well over the past 5 years. Ferrari only focuses on selling super high end cars,
yeah,
right? And it's been a great investment. So I'm not saying that the investment will be bad. I still think luxury brands do well, like Lululemon is in the U.S., I believe, also in Europe. They're super high end, athleisure sort of brand. It's very expensive to buy their products, but they've done well with growth. So yeah, there are cases where premium products do well, but where I believe is that if you want to become a 10 billion revenue company in the food space, in the food market, right? 10 billion revenue long term.
right.
Um, you can't do that by being purely a premium product, I think. I could be wrong about that. But like, for example, let me share my screen here, and I have a list of all of the biggest food companies in the world. At least the ones that trade on US exchanges. So I wish I had more global data, but I don't, unfortunately. But this actually includes a lot of foreign companies as well on this list. So obviously Nestle tops this list, right? So this is a list of all food companies globally, ranked by annual sales. And Nestle is number one at almost $90 billion. Archer Daniels, number 2 at 85 billion. JBS, which is the world's largest beef maker, they're at 52 billion. Cisco and Tyson, right? They're huge U.S. based chicken manufacturers. They're at 50 to 47 billion. So you can see this. You can go straight down this list here. Kraft Heinz, right? Another one.
Yeah.
That's a Warren Buffett favorite, I think. And Kellogg, it's another U.S. company. Aramark, Hormel, ConAgra, and then here's a Chinese dairy company at 11 billion. And you can kind of filter this by dairy products, like companies within the dairy industry. And if you see them, like all of these dairy manufacturers that get to 10 billion in sales, even smaller ones, like here's a smaller dairy company at 4.6 billion in revenue. All of these like huge food companies are mainstream companies. They are incessantly focused on cost. You don't see Campbell Soup, for example. I don't know if they have them in Europe, but they're the
Yeah, we do.
largest.
We do.
Yeah, so Campbell, the largest canned foods company. You can buy soup for a dollar, right? A can of soup for $1 to maybe $2 at most. Yeah, they do have a premium end of offerings, but the vast majority of their revenue comes from the very average priced soup, canned
Yes.
soup.
Yeah.
So all of these companies achieve this size because they are focused on cost and getting costs down to what average people can afford.
Yeah.
So I think we'd have to go down this list further to really find where is the premium end of the market. And I think Hain could be viewed as one of them. So Hain Celestial owns a number of organic food companies.
Yeah.
That's kind of the umbrella company there. And I believe they're mostly focused on organic and non-GMO brands that they own. So
That's
they're one of
only
the largest
two.
companies that.
Well, only 2 billion in sales per year.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So they're at 2 billion in sales,
Mm.
right? So when we think of Oatly, yes, the TAM is massive, right? The TAM of the dairy industry is enormous, but the TAM may be a little misleading if they were to stick to their current price point.
Mm.
The true TAM would be the organic milk sales, but even with organic milk, I don't know how it is in Europe, but in the US, you can buy a gallon of organic milk for maybe $6, and a half gallon of Oatly, costs about $4.
All right.
So you're talking about, a price that's about 33% higher than even organic milk. So if you were to adjust it for the quantity, so a half gallon costs $4
Yeah.
for Oatly, so 1 gallon would cost about $8, and 1 gallon of organic milk costs you about $6
Yeah.
in many stores. So 6 to 8, so that's a premium of about 33%,
Yeah.
right? So again, if you were to compare like for like, you're still talking about a very premium product.
Yeah.
So I don't know of an example of a premium food company that has ever achieved 3 billion in sales.
Yeah.
I guess you can look at McCormick, but they're a little bit different because I believe they're the world's largest spice company.
Yeah.
So spices are kind of required for all cooking, and I guess you can say yes, McCormick is kind of premium in that sense because their products are definitely more expensive than average spices out there. But it's a little bit of a different dynamic because restaurants, everybody needs spices. So restaurants use them, as well as this trend of work from home during COVID. That has led to an increased demand for spices. But I guess it's a little different. I don't know if it's directly comparable or not to the dairy industry, but people look at dairy, and it's $6 for organic milk, $8 for Oatly. So I don't know how big that TAM might be. It could be that, maybe people choose to spend a little bit more for Oatly, but I don't see an example of other companies that have done that,
All right.
and achieved the scale that some of these enormous companies out there do.
Yeah.
So, like this company right here, Dairy Farm International, they're at 10 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
They don't sell, high-end dairy. They don't sell high-end milk, right? They sell average priced milk that the masses can afford.
Yeah.
That's why they hit 10 billion in revenue. And because dairy is kind of a commodity in that sense, sure, Oatly is branded, so brands can be very powerful at protecting, and creating a moat. But it's still a little bit hard to make that case where when you go to the grocery store and go to the dairy aisle and you see Oatly there and you see 20 other brands there as well that also sells oat milk, right? You see Planet Oats, you see Califia Farms, you see other brands that also make oat milk, like Silk, right? Silk is the largest current plant-based milk brand, at least in the US.
Yeah.
They are entering oat milk. So there's so many other alternatives, and unless if someone can get to aggressive cost and marketing, that is the only way I believe that Oatly can establish market dominance.
So basically, that they'll be able to scale and then get down the costs and have a cheaper product in long term.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly. And that's why I don't believe that all these competitors to Beyond Meat are a threat, because I know that Beyond Meat is going to be the first one that gets to price parity with beef. And I know that Beyond Meat has strong brand appeal, right? It has, like they show on their quarterly letter, the brand appeal, right? When people think of, they just ran a poll where they asked people, when you think of plant based meat, what's the first brand you think of?
yeah.
And the vast majority say Beyond Meat. So Beyond Meat has that brand, connection in the minds of most shoppers out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the brand is there. I believe Oatly has that brand as well. But I know that all these other competitors are not going to get to the price point that Beyond Meat is aiming for,
No.
right? So if Beyond Meat gets to that price point of, say, $5 a pound, um, no one else is going to be able to do that and be able to do it profitably.
No.
And I believe Beyond Meat will.
Yeah.
So Beyond Meat has, not just brand appeal, but they have scale in order to have price dominance.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Beyond Meat will be a $20 billion revenue company, because of how large the meat market is. You can see that the difference between dairy and meat is that there are many dairy companies that all kind of have market dominance of somewhere between that 10 to 20 billion mark, right? But in the meat industry, it's very concentrated, because meat is, it's transportable a lot easier. It can be processed and therefore packaged a lot easier, and therefore it has a longer shelf life
Yeah.
compared to dairy. So dairy is a lot more localized, compared to meat, right? And so that's why I think Beyond Meat has much greater upside in terms of revenue than Oatly, because very few meat packers dominate the global meat industry, whereas dairy is a lot more commoditized. Even though they're both commodities, you can see that the dynamics kind of reveal themselves right in the data.
Yeah.
If I were to sort this list by industry, you can see that very few companies are large and are in the meat packing industry, versus many companies are dominate the dairy industry.
But when I think about the packaging, when it comes to Oatly in Sweden, anyways, we have like different versions of the milk, and both the milk and the chocolate milk. Some of them you need to have them in the the fridge, basically. But several of them, some of them, I'm not sure how it is in the U.S. You don't have to have them at all in the fridge. It's
Hmm.
not. I think they have like a version that's called fresh, and I think it's same with oatmeal brands like Alpro. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Same with the silk. So I think it could actually probably last several months on the shelves. Uh, Several of them.
Right. Yeah. So that's an advantage,
Yeah.
right? So that would be an advantage to have that others don't. That the dairy industry doesn't. That is.
But what I also find interesting is like our friend Mike, who's been into Oatly for like 10 years. We talked about this a little, and his
Mhm.
idea is also that when you think about coffee, right? And I'm guessing one of the most popular products from Oatly is their in coffee product, right?
Mhm.
And people, when it comes to drinking coffee, right? Uh, I don't drink coffee myself, but I do. Most people I know, they're crazy about coffee, and when they go out drinking and having milk in the coffee, they won't care. As long as they get their coffee. I don't think, or my opinion is, or what I've understood, they won't care if right now if you have to pay a bit more. But as we've seen
Mhm.
also with Starbucks in the UK, you used to have you had to pay a little extra to get Oatly instead in your coffee at Starbucks, but they took that away in the
Mhm.
UK now, so it's basically price parity there. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's what we need to see in Starbucks too. But it's hard to believe that that's not going to happen in the next couple of years too.
Yeah, and it's not to say that they can't ever charge premium prices.
Mm,
I'm not saying that either. Like, sure, because like in food service, it's a little bit different because you can get away with slightly higher prices there
mm,
because you're paying for the convenience of having it prepared for you,
yeah,
and you're also paying for like the brand of like Starbucks or whatever other coffee
yeah,
brand you're paying for. So yeah, I mean, if you have to pay an extra dollar for an oat milk coffee or latte at Starbucks, that I think is fine. I think Starbucks customers are used to paying extra prices anyway. So I'm not saying that Oatly should never charge a premium price. I'm just talking about the vast majority of their revenue, which comes from milk sales at retail,
yeah,
not food service, but retail.
yeah,
That's where people become very price sensitive, right? Um, Now, and I'm also not saying that they can't grow at their current price. I definitely think they can grow.
mm,
I think there's a huge market where people will pay that price for oat milk, especially for a brand that they trust, like
yeah,
Oatly.
yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm talking about like where is the end goal of Oatly, meaning where will Oatly be by 2030 is what I'm trying to think of, like the big picture of where they're going.
Yeah, because you talked about something
Is
yeah, but
Mhm.
because you like when it comes to pea protein and soy protein, and one of the issues with Oatly is that they're kind of a low protein product right now. So that's also
Yeah,
kind of like a threat that you see.
yeah, exactly. And I don't have the data in front of me here, but like that's the other risk that I see with Oatly, which is that I think the company has established itself rigorously within the oats world, but I see that there could be rising upstarts in other plant-based milks,
Yeah.
specifically in the pea protein milk,
Mm,
which is equally tasty, I believe. There's the Notco company.
mm,
Notco makes Not milk, which is really delicious. I've had it. My family likes it too, and I think that's a potential threat. And it's not that the argument there. The counter argument is that well, plant based milks is a huge market. There's huge room for multiple winners. That's true, but I've seen that certain milks rise and fall.
mm,
Right, like during the 2000s when the plant based milk movement started, there was soy milk. Soy milk had crazy growth in sales for 5 6 years,
yeah.
and then it really tanked. And then almond milk came up because almond milk started to take market share,
Yeah.
and almond milk has had this 10-year run, it's been a great run for almond milk, and now almond milk is starting to wane in their growth, and oat milk is now coming up.
It's probably a
So
sustainability issue though with the almonds, isn't it?
yeah, there could be that, but there are ways around that too. Like there's Blue Diamond, um, which is that brand which I guess you can argue that that has a little bit more additives in it rather than true almond base, and that's what makes it cheaper and less water, consumption based.
Mm.
So yeah, there is that argument. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just thinking that like, what if another consumer taste comes up where then pea protein becomes the milk of choice?
Yeah.
And remember, peas have an advantage over oats, which is that they're I believe they're less natural resource hungry
Mm.
compared to oats, and peas are a complete protein,
Yeah.
so it has all nine essential amino acids, whereas I believe oats still lacks something in that department, and there's just more protein overall in pea milk,
That
and it tastes
obvious,
great too.
and that should be probably another video on that. But
Mhm.
it's a difficult situation when it comes to protein because the way it really doesn't have to do with science as much as what people actually believe, right? Because when it comes to all kinds of food, all food basically have enough protein, depending on how much you actually eat of it. They're in varied levels, and
Yeah,
also there's an health argument, of how much protein should we actually eat.
yeah,
But because our society right now is very focused on protein, that's
yeah,
the best diet. That's the thing that makes you stronger and makes you live longer, according to some people, right? It's something that we believe.
mhm,
It's not really based on research, but that doesn't matter because if that's the opinion of people, that's what's going to sell. So I
yeah,
do agree that if Oatly had a product that has had more protein, I think that would appeal to the masses right now, anyways.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to know, like, that's one of the concerns I had is how easily can Oatly pivot to other, plant-based sources.
Mm.
If they had to, like, if they started to see that pea protein is starting to eat into their market share, or is causing revenue sales pressure
Yeah.
on oat milk sales,
Yeah.
can they pivot to another? Are they necessarily locked into oats? Right, is what I want to know.
Personally,
And yeah,
I don't see that there should be a problem because I don't know in the US, but in Sweden we have companies actually that do sell now. It's like mixed oats and pea protein
mhm,
in the same box basically, and I can't see why Oatly wouldn't be able to do that as a marketing thing, right? Like
yeah,
Oatly's protein plus drink or something like that. And because many people always say, well, the name Oatly is always going to minimize their capacity to move into other markets. But I don't agree because as long as you have just some oat base there, right, and then you can mix it
yeah.
with pea protein or soy protein or whatever. You would get that to work anyhow, and then it's all about the brand, right? Because it's still the brand
Mhm.
Oatly that's strong.
Right, yeah. Then you get into the other well, there's also that too, but then there's also a taste as well where, like, for example, Notco, it's not just pea protein, but they've actually formulated it
Yeah,
to mimic the taste of dairy milk.
yeah,
So there's a bit of R&D that's involved in there too. So I don't know, and then there's also the chance that maybe Beyond Meat might enter the plant-based milk market,
yeah,
with their partnership with Pepsi.
yeah,
They've got strong relationships with a huge number of retailers out there,
yeah,
and pea protein is Beyond Meat's bread and butter, right? They know peas really well.
yeah,
So I don't know if Beyond Meat did that, and if they went full blown into this market,
yeah.
I would really be very, very careful into looking at Oatly's numbers going forward
Yeah.
once you see Beyond Meat establish a more bigger market presence.
Yeah,
So
especially
all I'm saying is I'd be watching it very, very closely.
yeah, and especially with PepsiCo's with the Planet partnership that they have with them, and with their
Mhm.
huge distribution. that could go really quickly. Because if that's
Yeah.
something that PepsiCo actually felt interested in, because we've seen on LinkedIn that the Planet Partnership, which is Beyond and PepsiCo, they've had several ads in the last couple of months where they're looking for researchers that focus on the way dairy protein works.
Yeah.
And so, like PhD people that are looking for, and it seems like they've actually gotten them now because they've taken down the several of those ads. So
Yeah.
I mean, that probably will take some time, but I do think that's encouraging for Beyond Meat.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing is, when we talk about different kinds of, like we talked about silk and what's it called, Khalifa, or
Yeah.
yeah, and then we have
Khalifa sounds good.
yeah, and then we have nut cow. But again, I don't know. Is there any other brand out there, like plant-based dairy brand, that's made such a huge statement internationally also as Oatly? Considering that
No, I
by
don't.
2023
I
we'll
don't
have
think
them at
so.
no nine facilities internationally, right?
Yeah.
And then the whole thing that they've actually building their own supply chain from scratch because they didn't have it, and they didn't want to be dependent on others only. So they're basically,
Yeah.
which takes time, which takes resources, and now obviously that bites into their margins right now. But when everything of that has actually landed,
Hmm.
uh, I just wonder what will happen because again, considering their brand and they're the expert on this. This is what they focus on. Like you said, that other
Hmm.
people, other companies will move in maybe to the oat milk, and we have other oat milk brands. But again, several of these other plant-based companies or plant-based options aren't only focused on plant-based milk or dairy
Hmm.
alternatives, and kind of
Right.
like Beyond Meat in their space, right, in their sector. So that's why
Yeah.
I kind of see that Oatly, not only trying to be positive here, that they would be able to balance that with time because they have that expertise. That's something they've been working with now for almost 30 years, basically. So they should basically be the experts at this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I completely agree. So that's why I'm not bearish on Oatly at all. I think they will be successful, and I think there will be a pretty good return if you're an investor over the next 5-6 years.
Mm.
I would just, because of these concerns, I would
Mm.
just be watching the numbers very carefully and just
Yes.
make sure that the original thesis is intact, which is
Yes.
that people are willing to pay a premium price for Oatly,
All right.
and that growth continues, for many years down the road.
But we also talked about this that because I know there's some people, yeah, like Mike, we talked about that, and other things we've seen that it kind of indicates that they want to be a premium company, a premium product. But actually, I haven't really seen that anywhere else. Any specifics that they're basically etched in stone that that's the way they're going to. Because the overall goal of the company, right, being a plant based
Mhm.
company, is to almost kind of rule the world, take over the world, and make it more
Yeah.
sustainable and better for not only the planet but people's health and animals. So I feel like if you have such a grandiose goal, right, why wouldn't you do anything you could to actually make that happen? Which would mean, like,
Yeah.
basically say that with economy of scale and get the production costs down, having cheaper products. And it could be that
Yeah.
they will have cheaper milks. Like there's several other companies out there that they have one kind of product that is more luxurious, and then you have cheaper versions as well. So
Yeah.
I don't see that as something that would be impossible either.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's such a huge upside to Oatly. If they started to say that, look, who do we want to be? Do we want to be the Ferrari of the world, or do we want to be the Nestle of the world?
Right. Right.
Right. That's the question that they should be asking. And there's nothing wrong with either one,
Yeah.
but I just think that if they aim to be the Nestle of the world, that would actually have a significant impact, positive impact on the world
Yeah. Definitely.
and on their share price too,
Yeah.
because Nestle is embedded everywhere. if they're already kind of doing this with all these other products that they're rolling out besides just milk, right? Ice creams, candies, snacks, whatnot, whatever else that they get into. Um, they have the potential to be a Nestle if they were to go aggressive on price reduction.
Right.
So if they achieve scale, then they could reduce prices, and if they can hit somewhere close to price parity with, say, Nestle products, that opens up, significantly larger TAM
Yeah.
that they could take market share from.
And since you're talking about Nestle, it gets me to think about also the Coca-Cola company, right? Because when we're
Hmm.
talking about Coca-Cola company, and same with PepsiCo, that when you think about them, oh, well, you're thinking about a premium product, right? Because there is colas. There's like two colas that people will choose, and then there's cheaper versions, right? That some people would choose, but people, because the branding is so strong, right? It's so well known, whether it's actually better or not, people are going to buy the brands, right?
Yeah,
But what people forget, I think, is like same with the PepsiCo, is that it is the second largest food company out there, right? They have so
yeah,
much more than just Coke or PepsiCo, and same with Coca-Cola company. They have other things as well. So what I'm getting at is that I'm thinking that for Oatly's part, now in the beginning, because it's the beginning now when they're actually moving out internationally, right? Having that premium
mhm,
product in the first couple of years might make sense, building up that brand awareness, right? But as they
yeah,
get bigger, them actually starting to sell all kinds of products with their overall goal to take over the world, basically, and being badass
yeah,
is makes sense, right? So they could start
yeah,
selling all kinds of drinks and foods, and we're talking about cheeses that could be probably the next step that they would move into.
right,
And again, I think it is still for me quite impressive the way how fast they're actually moving out there. Because when it comes to as a dairy company right now, uh, being plant based, there aren't. I don't know of many other traditional dairy companies that on an international scale the way they are, that they're both in Asia, Europe, and in North America right now, and they actually have
hmm,
deals with in the Middle East and some parts in Africa as well. So they're
yeah,
basically moving around the world, and
yeah,
from there, I think there's massive opportunities with massive scale.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's why, again, I'm not trying to be bearish on
No,
Oatly.
no.
I love everything they're doing. It's just that it leaves a little bit to be desired. I want them to be one of the biggest food companies in the world.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
And I just know that the largest food companies in the world are not premium brands,
No.
meaning they're not, priced very high.
Right.
Unless if you can convince the world to pay a higher price. Um, I don't know of an example of another food company that's been able to do that and
No.
achieve like 10 billion in revenue. Maybe Oatly is the first one to do that in the world.
Mm.
That would be an incredible business case study
Right.
if that happens. Um, but that's not what I'm expecting. So I think Oatly will be successful, but as of right now, unless if they make price reduction a part of their mission,
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to hit 10 billion in revenue.
No.
That's my ultimate takeaway right now for this
That
talk. I don't
that's
think
what.
they're going to do 10 billion in revenue. I think they'll might do five, somewhere between 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Um,
But so
that's I think their upside.
how likely do you believe that it is that they're going to stick with this concept of being a premium product only, considering what their mission is?
That's why I think I think they may eventually, once they get to like say profit, maybe once they hit profitability, or once they hit their adjusted EBITDA target. I believe their target is 20% margins on EBITDA.
Yep.
Um, maybe at that point they start to say, okay, it's time to start, going aggressive with price. And let's say they change their EBITDA target, margin target, from 20% to 10%. that would actually be very bullish. I think the stock would actually jump on that news.
Yeah,
Maybe initially sell off, but then realize that, hold up, this means that they're going to 5x their revenue
yeah, exactly.
with a lower margin.
Yeah,
I think going lower on margins is actually really good because it means that they are going to increase volume by a significant amount.
yeah,
So if you see Oatly at the same price as even organic milk, for example, that would be a huge jump in their TAM.
yeah,
And then if they can get undercut the cost of organic milk, then the TAM, just increases even more from there.
yeah.
So
So
when we talk about, say, $1 trillion of dairy TAM, I don't think that's necessarily applicable because of Oatly's price point right now.
right, right. Well, it's going to be really interesting to monitor anyhow. So, and we know I think it's the 9th of March, March 9th, that they actually have their Q4 and 2021 reports. And I'm thinking that would be nice if you and me together made a video about that and took a look at what they had. And it'll be interesting to monitor and listen to what the CEO Tony Peterson talks about and what the overall management talks about. If we can see or get any indications already now that that's what they could be planning to do. So
Yeah.
we don't hear very much from the company when it comes to information. So, but that's something we're going to take a look at. And guys, now on Friday, I think we're going to make a video on what to expect from Beyond Meat's upcoming Q4 and 2021 report, which is going to be on the 24th of February, guys, the day before my birthday. So, so it's probably going to cut into that. It's going to be around 11 p.m. here in Sweden, and I think it's 5 p.m. in the Eastern time in the U.S. So, so I think so. If we do any expectations now on Friday, and then maybe on the 24th or 25th, we'll make a video on the actual results, or maybe maybe do a live stream of the conference call. So we'll talk about that depending on the time and everything for you, Mayur.
Yeah.
Yes. All right,
Sounds
guys.
good.
Is something you would want to say before we wrap this up?
No, just looking forward to Beyond Meat's numbers. So I'm gonna work some numbers here this week, and we can, propose my revenue and earnings target,
Yeah,
for this quarter.
exciting.
So
So,
yeah,
and probably on Friday though, are we doing a regular time, or which normally is 2:30 p.m. Eastern time?
yeah. Like, what does this time work better for you? One Eastern.
Yeah,
Um,
that works definitely.
is that better for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do
So
one Eastern then.
yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. Well, let's do that. All right,
All right.
guys. Thank you for today, and thank you, Mayur. And well, see you on Friday then.
All right. See you guys.
All
Yeah.
right. Bye.